Hey guys, this is Dave here with a look at Skyrim Special Edition for Xbox One X. The patch has finally dropped, and now owners of Microsoft's console get an enhanced experience targeting 4K resolution. But what else does this version bring? We came away impressed with the PS4 Pro 4K update, which gave us native 4K visuals, downsampling for 1080p owners, along with a few upgraded effects, such as the improved draw distance for foliage and grass, putting this aspect of the game on par with PC's ultra settings. Although elsewhere, shadow quality and other effects were a step down from PC and on par with what we got on base hardware. It was a pretty solid experience all round, and performance also mostly held to 30 frames per second, with volumetric heavy scenes causing the frame rate to dip at points. In that sense, moving up from PS4 Pro to Xbox One X should get us closer to hitting that ultra PC style experience. But what are we looking at? Well, if you're hoping to get the full fat PC experience at UHD resolution, then you're going to be disappointed. Essentially, the bulk of the feature set is exactly the same between PS4 Pro and Xbox One X. So in terms of things like draw distances, streaming, both consoles hand in very much the same experience here. You get the improved grass draw distance over base hardware, but in terms of the draw distance of the geometric elements, PC still comes up ahead here. Likewise, shadow quality is also a match for base PS4, with these elements appearing softer than on the PC. So on the face of it, it really looks like we're kind of getting the same visual quality as on PlayStation 4 Pro, but on Microsoft's platform. Although I did notice a slight tweak to ambient occlusion in some scenes, with the effect appearing slightly more refined on the X. Perhaps this is one area that has been ported over from the PC version. But aside from that, base graphical quality is the same on Pro and Xbox One X. It's a decent looking game on the console, but at the same time I expected more from the Xbox One X version of the game. With that extra GPU power, having PC version's ultra settings isn't that much of a stretch to expect, particularly at 4K 30 frames per second. But ultimately that's not what we're getting. Instead, it's much the same as the PlayStation 4 Pro in most areas, although it does run more smoothly with performance that sticks closer to 30 frames per second. We'll take a look at that in a bit. But in terms of image quality, what about the resolution? Well, PlayStation 4 Pro we found to run at native 4K. Even in demanding stress points, we couldn't find pixel counts that dip below on either axis. What's interesting is that Bethesda has stated that the Xbox One X version operates using a dynamic resolution, the same thing that we found on Fallout 4, a dynamic resolution scaler that adjusts the horizontal axis depending on the rendering load. Now in terms of the Xbox One X version of Skyrim, for the most part we're looking at full fat native 4K, but on some demanding stress points where there's a lot of alpha effects, volumetric fog, then horizontal pixel counts can dip below that. Now this early scene here where the dragon unleashes havoc across this village. On Xbox One X I noted a drop in pixel counts down to 2944 to 2160p, instead of the usual 3840 by 2160 we get elsewhere. Whereas on PlayStation 4 Pro this scene plays out at native 4K. This drop in resolution only lasts for a couple of seconds on Xbox One X before we go back to getting that full fat 4K resolution. There's a slight softness you notice in still screens, but it's really difficult to pick up in motion simply because the game's temporal anti-aliasing component means we're looking at quite a soft, smooth presentation across both consoles. That said, it's a little disappointing to find that we're looking at a drop in resolution at all on Xbox One X, particularly when PlayStation 4 Pro can hold that full 4K image. However, there is one benefit with games using dynamic resolution scaling. Usually performance tends to stick more closely to this target. And in the case of Skyrim, we're looking at a much closer lock to 30 frames per second on the Xbox One X. If we compare the opening scene here where there's a lot of volumetric fog effects, it's clear that Xbox One X doesn't have any trouble rendering this area. And yeah, we're looking at native 4K on both consoles here, and yet performance holds to its 30 frames per second target quite nicely. Whereas on PlayStation 4 Pro, it does dip below. It's not a massive drop here, but there is a little bit of extra judder on screen you simply don't get on the Xbox One X. As we move into other scenes which feature volumetric fog effects or more demanding gameplay scenarios, then frame rates can be hit a lot harder on PlayStation 4 Pro, resulting in brief moments of significant stutter. Whereas on Xbox One X, these are mostly ironed out completely. In fact, the game pretty much holds solid 30 frames per second, at least throughout all the tests we've done so far. There's the occasional 1 FPS drop that rarely crops up, but when compared to PlayStation 4 Pro, these happen, well, a lot more infrequently. So even when playing, I got the feeling that the Xbox One X gives us a nice, smooth, consistent experience end to end. Whereas on PlayStation 4 Pro, even though it is mostly smooth at 30 frames per second, there are points where the game just isn't quite as stable, and you can see and feel the difference at times. It's not a deal breaker at all, but Xbox One X definitely has the advantage, and at times it can certainly be a noticeable one. So to wrap things up, Skyrim Special Edition is a noteworthy upgrade on Xbox One X. It's a massive boost over what we get on base PS4 and Xbox One, and performance is significantly improved over the Pro in stressful areas. This gives it a more consistent presentation all round, but outside of that, well, I kind of feel that perhaps more could have been done here. Perhaps we could have got a better experience with more advanced settings. The game's targeting 30 frames per second, and it would have been nice to have more of that PC bling, the high quality shadows, the full draw distance for all elements. But as it stands, we're kind of getting the PlayStation 4 Pro version with smoother performance and a dynamic resolution that appears slightly more often. Overall though, I think that the improved performance makes the Xbox One X version the best console release of the game so far. But at the same time, there's a sense that more could have been done to give us the truly definitive version of the game. Anyway, with that said, I'll leave it there for now. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out our Patreon page at digitalfoundry.net and support us there, where you can download the high quality source file of this video. As ever, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.